us tonight. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Fremont County, the Fremont County Republican Party, the Republican Women of Fremont County PAC, and the Fremont County Democrat Party, I will welcome you to this forum this evening for House District 28 and Senate District 20 and Fremont County Commission number 2, District 2. I'm Linda Barton. I'm the chair of the League of Women Voters of Fremont County, and we're pleased to host 8 candidate forums during the 2024 primary election season. Tonight's forums are the first for this election cycle. On July 18th, we will host 3 forums in Du Bois at the Headwaters Arts and Conference Center for House District 34, Senate District 26, and County Commission District 2. On July 23rd, we will host 2 forums in Lander at the Public Library for House Districts 54 and 55. We are gratified and thankful for the ongoing support from the Fremont County residents. We will host, who are eager to learn about the candidates running for public office. The League of Women Voters of Fremont County is a nonpartisan grassroots organization that is part of the State and National League of Women Voters. The League believes voters should play a critical role in democracy and encourage informed and active government participation. The League is dedicated to voter education, voting rights, and providing information that helps voters make informed decisions at the polls. The League of Women Voters of Fremont County was founded in the winter of 2019 by a group of local citizens who wanted to promote our free and open election process. This year's election season, members of the Fremont County Republican Party, the Republican Women of Fremont County PAC, the Fremont County Democratic Party, and the League came together to determine the format and questions being asked at these forums. It's a true collaboration. The League does not support or endorse any candidate running for office. The League distributes unbiased candidate information through our digital primary election voter guide and general election voter guide, mailed to over 19,000 households in Fremont County. Our Be a Voter guide informs the citizens of Fremont County how to register, request an absentee ballot, and other need-to-know voter information. Please consider adding your name to our email listserv on the sign-up sheet at our information table. Visit our Facebook page at Fremont County League of Women Voters for information about our local elections, voter guide, and other candidate forums. Tonight's forum is being live streamed by County 10 and will be available through their online post at County 10, YouTube, and Facebook. Consider joining the League of Women Voters. Grab our materials and become a member, or visit us at www.lwv10.org for more information. Please consider donating to the League to continue offering voter education and resources that help inform the public. We thank our County Clerk, Julie Fries, and the excellent Fremont County Election Office staff for providing guidance and information over the past few months and registering voters. Their successful work is paramount to our ability to access the polls. Thank you to Maggie Miller for moderating this forum and County 10 for hosting our forum videos and providing a sound system. Finally, I want to thank our partners, the Fremont County Republican Party, the Republican Women of Fremont County PAC, and the Fremont County Democratic Party, who devoted countless hours preparing for these forums. Their insights into county issues and dedication to providing a platform for candidates to share their views and for citizens to hear from the candidates are vital to the success of these forums. Of course, we want to thank the candidates for running for elected office. It is a commitment of time, energy, and emotional and mental strength. We welcome these candidates and wish them well in their campaigns. Thank you very much. With that, please welcome our moderator for tonight's forum, Maggie Miller, who will introduce the guidelines and begins tonight's events. Thank you for joining us again, and we'll get started now.
Good evening. Indeed, my name is Maggie Miller, and I'm going to be the forum moderator. I'm sorry, what? I'll explain that. That's great. Thank you. So I'll be the forum moderator this evening, and I wanted to let you know that I too have a vested interest in the elections in Fremont County. I'm the mother of two young women who live here in Fremont County, primarily. One is in medical school through the WWAMI program. It's the collaboration between the School of Medicine for the University of Washington in Seattle and the state of Wyoming. And the other lucky girl is currently working as a wrangler for the Allen Brothers Ranch up out of Dickinson Park. I think I envy her the most. I'm an attorney. I represent children in the 9th Judicial District in Sublette County and Fremont County. So I have occasion to work with Amanda Sanchez, and I see many people here at the courthouse. I'm honored to be the moderator of this forum. I firmly believe in democracy and that it's based on, I firmly believe our democracy is based on our right and responsibility to vote. And so I'm here to help educate Fremont County voters about the choices that we have for our election this year. Our goal for this forum is to give candidates time to share their thoughts and ideas with voters. The candidates that we have here this evening: Republican Ed Cooper, Senate District 20. He is running alongside Tom Olmsted, who could not be here this evening. He chose not to come. I don't know what the circumstances were, but we're very disappointed in his decision and firmly believe that Fremont County voters deserve to hear from candidates. We are pleased to offer Senator Cooper the opportunity to share his ideas with the public, and it'll be slightly different format because you're here unopposed this evening. We also have, for House District 28, Representative Winter, who's here in the middle, and then Kevin Skates is running against him. As mentioned before, this is being live streamed on YouTube, Facebook County 10, and it'll be linked in through County 10 and the Fremont County League of Women Voters website, which will enable all kinds of people to watch it who are not able to come tonight for whatever reason. The schedule and how this is going to work this evening is that we're going to offer each candidate a 2-minute time to offer an opening statement. And then we're going to follow with 10 questions, with each candidate having 1.5 minutes to respond to a question. The pair of Kevin Skates and John Winter will have rebuttal opportunities. Ed Cooper won't need a rebuttal opportunity, but perhaps I know that he doesn't want to disparage Tom Olmsted, but if he knows that there's a specific difference, perhaps he could articulate that for the listeners here today, and I might have a question about that as well. When a speaker has 15 seconds remaining, Abby is going to raise an orange flag. We're not pressed for time for this first half of this, so it's not going to be super strict, but we do want to stay on track. We're going to alternate leads so that nobody goes first each time. The next section of the forum will be audience questions. As indicated, there's going to be cards circulated around after the third set of questions. Anybody can write down a question that they have, and volunteers will collect those questions and look through to see which might be the most scintillating, and then we will handle those at the end. At the very conclusion, each candidate will be given 1 minute to present a closing statement. Importantly, I'm confident that you will hear things tonight that you agree with, but you'll also hear things that you disagree with. We ask that you refrain from reacting to candidates' comments or applauding so the candidates can remain focused on their message. And I'd like to begin with opening statements. If Mr. Winter, if you could lead us off with an opening statement.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Well, it's my pleasure to be here this evening, and I appreciate the community of Shoshoni and Fremont County. They've been very good to me, and I really do appreciate them, and I hope to continue to do the work that needs to be done for you folks. As probably most of you know, I was born and raised in Cody, and I guess Kevin was as well. So how we got to Thermopolis is two different directions, I guess, but we enjoy living where we do, and I've been in the legislature now. I'm in my third term, and I'm looking forward to a fourth. That's probably going to be my last go if I can win, because I'm getting too old. I don't want to end up like Mr. Biden. So, and I would welcome any time for you folks to call me with questions that you might have, and I'd be happy to try to get the answer for you. So, again, thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to answering your questions as they come up, and I look forward to another session in Cheyenne. Thank you.
Mr. Skates.
Yes, I would say the same thing as John. Thanks to Fremont County League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I'm glad to be here. Like John said, we're both from Cody, grew up there, lived in Wyoming my whole life. I've worked in government jobs for 35 years. I worked for the city of Rawlins for 18, then I moved over to Thermopolis and ran Hot Springs State Park. I was a superintendent there for 17 years. So I retired February of 23. So I bring some knowledge about government from this end. Now I'm trying to get on to the side of the elected official. But I think that's helpful because I worked with everybody when I worked in Rawlins and when I worked in Thermopolis at Hot Springs State Park. I worked with legislators, governors, special interest groups, organizations, and it didn't matter who they were or what party they were affiliated with. I tried to work with everybody as best I could. And I think I did that. I think I accomplished that at Hot Springs State Park. I'm a proven leader. In my work career, I served as, in Thermopolis, I served as the president of the local Rotary Club. I was president and on the Hot Springs County Travel Tourism Board for 6 years and served as the president of that for 2 years. I was president of Wyoming Recreation and Parks Association, clear back in, I believe it was 1992, 93. And so I bring good leadership, and I'm looking forward to trying something new.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper.
Thanks, Maggie. My name's Ed Cooper. I live in Tensleep, born in Thermopolis, raised in Worland, if you will, Worland and Tensleep. I grew up on sheep and sugar beets. My family first my family came to Worland in 1906, and we've been involved in agriculture in one form or another since that time. I've been in the oil and gas business since 1972. Literally. Worked in Siberia when it was still the Soviet Union. Saw the Soviet Union at its worst. I was actually there when it collapsed, December 26, 1991. I worked in Venezuela when Chavez was coming to power. I saw the destruction of the middle class. So I've seen socialism at its absolute worst. I understand why we need to fight so hard in Wyoming to keep Wyoming. As I consider bills in the legislature, I've just finished my first term, and what an education it's been. But as we consider bills, the first thing I consider is the constitutionality of it, whether that's the U.S. Constitution or our little blue book, the state constitution. And the second thing I consider is what does it do for my constituents? And those constituents now in District 20 is all the way from Beck Lake at Cody clear to the Gas Hills. All of Washakie, all of Hot Springs, this whole corner of Fremont, the south half of Park, south half of Bighorn. So a lot of miles, a lot of diversity across that whole district. But I've tried hard to get to know people from one end to the other. I've got family from one end to the other, and I think I can fairly represent everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, you'll have a minute and a half to answer a question, and then as between Mr. Skates and Mr. Winter, there will be a rebuttal of 30 seconds. Mr. Skates, if you would start us off, the first question is, what are two of the most important challenges facing the state of Wyoming, and how would you address these challenges?
The two most pressing challenges, I would say one of them is our ability to disagree and be respectful. And as Judy mentioned, collaboration. I think collaboration is huge for our state right now, trying to get Republicans, Democrats to do what's best for the people of Wyoming. That's what makes our state so strong, is the citizens of Wyoming. We all live here for a reason, and our legislative body has done a great job. I've lived here for 68 years, and I think we have a wonderful state. And my job is to keep that proud tradition going. The other thing would be, I think, is mental health. I believe that we really need to work on our children with mental health. We have, a 12-year-old getting stabbed at the mall in Casper, and we just recently, last year, had 2 students at Hot Springs County High School committing suicide. So I really think that the schools and the state need to work on trying to get counselors, counseling facilities within the state of Wyoming so that they're very accessible.
Thank you.
What Kevin mentioned certainly are important things for the state of Wyoming. I have a little different idea about that right now with the goings-on in this state. I've been involved with the wolf issue and the wild horse issue, and I keep getting questions about why is Wyoming not taking care of their wildlife, including predators. And my initial response to them, I've questioned this quite a bit. My concern is that, number one, you cannot legislate against stupidity and ethics. And I think our parents have lost some of this, the important issues relative to their kids. That's where a kid begins to learn, and it's got to be from their parents and the school system. So in addition to what I just said, I think probably our other issue is private property rights and sales tax or property taxes. And I've just discussed with our county clerk in Hot Springs County about this and about elections, and I think that I think the counties are on the right track to get something done relative to these issues. So thank you.
Thank you, and we'll have an opportunity to talk about some of those issues in further questions. Mr. Skates, you have 30 seconds to respond to that if you'd like. Thank you. Mr. Cooper, You have a minute and a half, followed by a moment if you'd like to reflect on what you think Tom Olmsted would say, or if there's a particular difference between you. It's a little awkward, I know. We wish he were here, though.
Thanks, Maggie. Well, I will not disparage my opponent. I'd like to welcome him to Wyoming. He's new to the state, but he's here and he's running, and I think I can't. An opponent in any race makes us better candidates. So, two of the most important challenges to the state. There's a whole list of them here. I'm looking at rural health, school finance reform, property tax reform, predator control, local control, in my opinion, is really important. So much overreach by the federal government and by our state government. So, especially in the school districts and municipalities, we need to make sure that we maintain local control. I think probably one of the more important issues is the continued viability of our extractive minerals to the state of Wyoming, and how do we keep coal flowing to the rest of the nation, and keep oil and gas flowing to the rest of the nation. Being on the Energy Council, I'm on the executive committee of the Energy Council. It's 15 states, I believe it is, and 3 provinces. We get together 3 times a year and try to come up with some policy to take back to Washington and hopefully get somebody to listen to us a little bit. But what I hear when we go and talk to these folks from the rest of the nation, going to the south and east of us here, where our coal goes, most of it, they're looking to us for leadership on how do we get the government out of the coal business, for one thing, as far as the EPA and the BLM, the war they're fighting against us. But what do we need to do to bring the product to them? Their customers are demanding low carbon energy, and so it's our responsibility to help develop that low carbon energy and bring it to our customers downstream. I think that's pretty critical. I'm not sure how my opponent would respond to that. From what I've listened to him in the past, I'm sure he doesn't understand the whole carbon capture CCSU program, the 45Q credits. People think that's a Biden Green New Deal. The 45Q credits are a Trump program designed to keep coal flowing, and the Trump administration poured hundreds of $millions into this program, and it's a great program. It's working. It's really starting to work well for us here in Wyoming. So I think it's critical that we move forward with that.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Winter, you are next up. The homestead exemption law now includes a 50% exemption for homeowners who are older than 65 and have paid property taxes for 25 years. This exemption will create a revenue shortfall of over $49 million in the first year. How should the revenue loss be replaced, and/or what services should be cut?
Well, that is a question that the legislature has been dealing with quite a while, and I don't think we've come up with a solution. However, I visited with our county assessor today about this very thing, and it appears to me that this Homestead Act, or however it is related to the Homestead Act, is kind of one-sided, and to me, we need to figure out a way to give everybody some sort of a relief, and not just older people like myself. People are taxpayers, and they deserve to be considered right along with everybody else. And there must be a way that we can do something to benefit everyone. What was the other part of it?
Well, you either have to make up the shortfall or you have to cut some services.
I don't know.
That's fair.
but I think we'll figure it out. And I really believe that with the right folks down there, we're going to figure it out. And so hopefully we'll be able to continue on and do the good things for the state. Thank you.
Mr. Skates, it's your turn for that easy question.
First of all, I think the state has been working, and I know Ed has been working on some bills, and I think this 50% or 25 reduction is too much. We cannot afford to go $49 million down. We take small steps. The property tax rebate that we've done the last couple of years, I think, is a good step. The House or the Senate Bill 54 is all about taking residential property, and you'll vote for that this fall in November, taking that residential property out of the Constitution, making it separate from commercial and industrial property tax. So I think those are two steps that'll work well. I think we have to go slow and to cut our counties and our towns funding. Our small towns, we have to have necessary taxes, and property tax is one that we survive on, our small communities. And I think you all know that we have a pretty nice tax foundation in Wyoming. We don't overpay. We have no state tax, but our property taxes have been jumping quite significant. So I think we just have to keep an eye on it. And I think John said that they are continuing to work on that. And I think that's exactly what has to happen.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper.
Thanks, Maggie. Well, the homestead exemption tax was put in place to help our seniors that have been in their homes for a long time, that are facing these huge property tax increases, to overcome that a little bit. I felt that probably there should have been some income limits on that. We didn't really come across with any, but the bill as it passed is workable. As far as the shortfalls, we're going to have to come up with a way to do this. And just like John said, I don't know what that answer is. Part of it lies in our whole property tax reform constitutional amendment that's coming up. Just eliminating property taxes, which some people would like to do, my opponent's one who advocates that, is absolutely the wrong answer. We have to pay our property taxes. We become very accustomed to things like a library and a dump and a fire district and cemetery district, whatever else it might be. Plus our schools, I think right at 70%, 67 to 72%, depending on the county, goes to our schools. So it's critical that we move forward with this. And I don't know if the answer comes back to direct distribution. There's possibilities, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration from everybody there working with our county assessors and our county treasurers, and they're the people on the ground. They're the people who have to do this, and we really have to listen to them, and they'll tell us how to come up with hopefully help us come up with a better solution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Winter, I want to correct an oversight. You didn't get 30 seconds to rebut what Mr. Skates had to say. Did you want to add anything? Not really? Okay. So we don't always go in the same order. How about Mr. Cooper, you can take the first stab at this third question. And remember, if you want to write an audience question, you'll get a card after this question. Given our current system of taxation that funds our government and public programs, what do you believe should be taxed? Or what state services should be modified? So a slightly different take on the issue we just talked about.
Thanks for the softball there. One of the things that I think is floating around out there that really has some merit is a electrical production tax. Now, everybody says, well, you're going to bring forward a new tax. That's not quite right. 85% of the electricity that's taxed in Wyoming, or that's produced in Wyoming, goes out of state, and it is untaxed. There are some folks in the legislature who would like to bring forward a production tax, 2%, 2.5%, something like that, on every megawatt of electricity that goes across the state. We can't just do an export tax because of interstate commerce laws. But to offset that, what we'd like to do is exempt electricity from sales tax. So you pay another 2% on your electric bill for the production tax, but you get a 6% reduction in sales tax. So the net result to the Wyoming user of the electricity is a 4% tax break. So I think that has some merit, and that may be one of these things that we can continue to work on. Thank you.
Mr. Skates, what do you think about that?
Like I said before, I think taxes are necessary, and we've got to make them reasonable. But I believe that people want to come to Wyoming. They're not moving in here by droves. We only had a 2% increase in population in from 2010 to 2020. But we have people that want to come to Wyoming. They love this state. They want to come spend time. And you guys right across the street here at the help me with the name. Yeah, Fast Lanes, sorry. You guys see tons and tons of people from all over the country, regional people that come to use the reservoir. And we have so many resources here for drawing people from out of state. And I think we can really try to make an effort with outdoor recreation and tourism to try to boost our sales tax. And that way it doesn't cost us anything, but we generate that money which comes back to the state. So that would be my number one thing. I'm a big proponent of tourism, and we have consultants. When I was on the Travel and Tourism Board in Hot Springs County, we had consultants come in and they say, you guys have just a diamond in the rough in this state. You need to try to get more people here. You guys have great fishing. You have mountains, and you can go anywhere in the state and go and be away from people. So it's one thing that we really need to work on is improving our visitor sales tax dollar.
Thank you. Mr. Winner, 90 seconds.
I just want to make one comment first. Just so you all know, the rebate on these property taxes is in the mail. I just learned that today, so hopefully people will be able to benefit from that soon. Could you repeat that question, please?
I can. Given our current system of taxation that funds our government and public programs, what do you believe should be taxed? Or what state services should be modified?
Well, thank you. It appears to me that, well, first of all, there is a movement on right now to do away with property taxes. And I have not signed on to that as yet. I'm like both of these fellows. I think that it's our duty to pay our taxes, and because there's all these other little issues that we take for granted that need to be funded, and we need to make sure that it does occur. So as far as new taxes and so forth, I think we're doing just fine the way we are. I would hope that we could. I just don't like new taxes, so I'm going to be fighting against that all the time down there. So thank you.
30 seconds, Mr. Skates. Okay. Sure.
To add on to what John just spoke of there, the group that are trying to eliminate property taxes. We need to keep in mind as we're doing that the bulk of these property taxes are not paid by residential. We need to reform residential, but we need to really be careful of what we do with a general property tax elimination. I'm sure that the Exxons of Wyoming will probably send us a really nice Christmas card if we give them a $110 to $150 million property tax break. That's not where we want to go. We need residential property tax reform, but the rest of it, and believe me, I am very much minerals oriented, but we need to leave those taxes in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did everyone in the audience who wanted to write a question down do so? Okay, we're back to you, Mr. Winter. Do you support the current funding model for public schools? Why or why not? I promise this is the last sort of funding thing.
Well, thank you for the question. That's a toughie. I think schools need to reassess what they're doing. I think that they get a lot of funding, and I don't necessarily think it's always spent the correct way. I worry about our teachers, and it seems to me that they are not being paid what they're worthy of, whereas the administration seems to be doing quite well. And I refer to Hot Springs County as one of the main problems, and I have expressed this before. But the school system needs to reevaluate where they're at and what they can do to assist their teachers, because if we didn't have good teachers, the administration doesn't mean anything as far as I'm concerned. So I would hope that we could reevaluate it and come up with a funding that will do the job but not be extravagant.
Thank you. Mr. Skates.
Yes, I've got two children that are teachers, one in Wyoming and one in Kansas. And like John said, they're underpaid. They work their tail off. They raise children. They do all sorts of things that we don't give them credit for. And I also agree with John. I think we're a little top heavy. We need to get more help for the teachers. We need to get counselors in schools, and less cream at the top. But to me, education is essential. We've got to keep our kids going, and I've always been proud of our education system that we have in this country and have in Wyoming. I think we do a good job, and I would encourage people to really look at that. And I think that's one advantage I have of working in state government. I think, don't tell my old bosses that, but I think we're maybe throughout the state, we're a little top heavy. I started at Hot Springs State Park. I had 8 full-time employees. When I retired, I had 5. And so we lost people on the ground, but we seem to have more people in Cheyenne than we needed. So I think that's something we can really look at, and I think John hit that right on the head.
Do you have a rebuttal, Mr. Winter? Mr. Cooper, thoughts on the current funding model?
Thank you, Maggie. I agree with both these guys. It's pretty easy to identify the problem, but it's really tough to come back with solution-based legislation to fix the problem, especially when we're up against things like the Campbell lawsuits that are dictating what our school funding model is right now. Do I agree with the funding model as it is? No. I think it needs to be revisited from one end to the other. And it's going to be a massive project. It's not something that'll happen in 1 year or 2 years. It could very well be a 10-year project to get it redone. Right now, we give them a basket of goods. This is what you have to teach, basically. and we give them a block grant for this is the money you get to do it with. We don't control how they spend that money. And I don't believe that we should control how they spend that money. That is local control of the school districts, and that belongs to the people in this district, the people in Hot Springs. What's right for Shoshoni or Matitsi is not what's right for Cheyenne or Gillette or Casper. So the state needs to be very careful to not overreach what we can do. That control and how the money is spent needs to stay in the local school districts, in my opinion. Thank you.
Don't sit down. You're next. Do you have concerns about our voting and election process?
No, I absolutely don't. I've had the privilege of getting to know all 5 of my county clerks over the last 4 years, and I can't imagine a better group of people to work with. These folks take their job very seriously. I believe there probably is voter fraud in other places around the country, but in Wyoming, I don't believe it's an issue. I've seen the movies and heard all the rhetoric, but I've also sat down with these county clerks and really asked hard questions of them, and they have the answers. I have full trust in them. Thank you.
Mr. Skates, concerns about our voting and election process?
I have no issues. Like Ed, since I started running for this position, I've talked to all 5, or how many counties do we have here? 4. But anyway, I've talked to all the county clerks, and I talked to Julie Freeze from Fremont County yesterday, and she said that she was selected last year, her and one other county clerk in Wyoming, to attend a national conference on elections, and she said we were the envy of the conference. She said people wish they could do it like we do in Wyoming. Now, like Ed said, I think we have an advantage because of our population. The gal in Bighorn County said she would know if there was problems. She said she would almost know if there was too many votes. She said, I almost get the same amount every year, and she's been doing it for years. And she said if she suspected anything, she would know it instantly. But they check, and they double check, triple check, and it's their job. And they want to do it right. They want to make sure it gets done right. And I have all the confidence in the world in them. I think it's very solid.
Mr. Winter, any concerns?
Folks, I have had concerns about our elections. Some of my emails I get from folks around, they've really studied the issue, and so I have visited with some county clerks as well. And as far as I'm concerned, they're doing a whale of a job. Fremont County and Hot Springs County are kind of one and the same in that they have sisters involved in 2 counties, and they seem to have their act together. And what I've been told is that this new system that some of the counties are using, they can detect whether a person is a felon or an illegal alien, if you will, or many of these other situations that do come up. They can detect that through their system because it's electronic, so I understand, but it goes back to our state system, and the state has worked with a computer outfit to design our system according to what Wyoming needs. So I think we're in good hands. Some of the other counties have not been able to get involved in this system yet, but they're working that direction. And I am convinced that Wyoming is headed in the right direction. We just need to support them and do what we can to help them wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any rebuttal, Mr. Skates? Okay.
May I add?
Yes.
Thank you. Very quickly to add to what both of these gentlemen said, I don't believe we have, again, I don't believe we have an issue in Wyoming. I'm 100% sure of it. But that doesn't mean we can't, that we shouldn't continue to be vigilant. We absolutely have to continue to protect our election system. Our elections are, that's clear at the very top of our rights. And we need to continue to do everything we can to protect our system. I like it the way it is, but we cannot let our guard down for any reason. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you. Next question. And I don't even remember where we are. It's between Mr. Skates and Mr. Winter. Who wants this? Okay, Mr. Winter. Here you go. What is the appropriate balance between state and federal oversight of natural resources and lands in Wyoming, and why?
Right now, ma'am, we have a big problem with the federal government. The BLM is trying to devastate Wyoming. I mean, they're trying to take our natural resources, stop the production of those things, and stop our recreation activities. And we have to go back to who has been appointed in the different positions. Director of the BLM and Deb Haaland, who is the Department of the Interior Secretary. We have got to change those, and that's why we have got to change our the hierarchy in Washington. We need a new president, and so he can appoint the proper people, because right now we have a problem. The state of Wyoming is taking a back seat for our citizens. The federal government is trying to elevate their position and force things on the state of Wyoming that are unnecessary and are not correct. So what else did you want me to ask or answer?
I think Abby says you're good. Thank you. Mr. Skates.
Yes, I mentioned before, I think the state of Wyoming has done a really good job over the last 100 years dealing with our federal counterparts. I think we take a strong hold on what we believe in, and I think our legislators in the last 50 years have done a really good job battling the federal government. And it's going to come up over and over again. The feds are going to want to embark on we call it our property, but on that property, and they're going to try to take what they can from us. And we just have to resist, and we have to go to Washington and fight that battle. And I think we've done a really good job of that. Obviously, we're not going to do everything right. Nobody does, but I think for the most part, it's been a collaborative effort amongst the state legislatures, the House, the Senate, the governor, and I think we do a good job of protecting what we love to have in Wyoming.
Any rebuttal, Mr. Winter? Mr. Cooper, your thoughts?
Thanks, Maggie. As of this week, the state of Wyoming is involved in 59 lawsuits against the federal government to protect our natural resources in Wyoming. 59 lawsuits. It's extremely expensive. The legislature has funded that, and we will continue to fund that to help fight for control of our minerals and to make sure that our extractive minerals do continue flowing. That's oil and gas, that's coal, that's nuclear, everything that we extract, the federal government is trying to take away from us. This last summer, we were in Washington talking to the deputy director of the Department of Interior, young lady over the BLM, probably in her mid to late 30s from New York. And she was talking about what a wonderful job they're doing. And we disagreed with her strongly and specifically asked her, have you ever been west? And she said, no, but I really need to go out there. So here's it. a young lady from New York who's never even been to Wyoming, and we tried to explain to her the area of BLM in just the state of Wyoming is more than the entire area of the entire state of New York. And that's what you're trying to take away from us, and that's what you're trying to control. And she thought about that for a minute and just shook her head. She couldn't wrap her head around the volume of land that we have that's controlled by the feds. So we absolutely have to continue to finance these lawsuits and fight every single day against the overreach of the federal government.
Thank you. Mr. Skates, do you have any concerns about the Natrium nuclear plant being built by TerraPower in Kemmerer?
Do I have any problem with it? I really don't. I think it's another example of Wyoming trying to do the right thing and trying to take advantage of our minerals and our process here. And so I have no problem with them doing it. I know there's a lot of kickback on who's doing it and why they're doing it and that kind of thing, but we have to keep exploring our mineral situation. That we're looking at companies that are trying to come up with new wind farm systems so that we don't have these obtrusive wind generators in our skylines in Wyoming. So there's always something going on with our energy field, and I think we just got to keep looking at that. And I think we've done a great job keeping our lands open. Wildlife, we can go out and hunt and we can go fish, but yet we need that mineral energy resource for our taxes. So I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. With regard to this nuclear facility over there in Kemmerer, I voted to allow that to happen. I mean, it's important for the state of Wyoming, and especially for those people in Kemmerer. Those folks over there, that's their livelihood, are the mines and the power generating that they do. And my biggest concern with that whole nuclear effort over there is the guy that's promoting it. And we all know Bill Gates, and I don't trust him one little bit. And so I have reservations about what may happen. However, I'm not sorry that I voted to promote that for those people there in Kemmerer. It's really an important deal for the state of Wyoming. As Kevin indicated, Wyoming has mineral resources and we need to utilize them. So we need to do what we can to promote that, but be on the alert as to things that may come up over there because of the individual that's promoting that. I don't trust him, so hopefully we can continue on and have a good outcome from our nuclear energy. Thank you.
Any rebuttal, Mr. Skates? Mr. Cooper, thoughts on the Natrium nuclear?
Thank you, Maggie. The Natrium plant itself is the safest technology in the world today. The safety of the plant is not going to be a question. What we're doing here, the state of Wyoming is right. We are the cutting edge of nuclear power, of what's fixing to happen with nuclear power in the nation and in the world today. This is just one of the first steps. We have to protect our extraction of the minerals, and that's a big thing here in Fremont County. Conversion of the yellow cake to the gas is gone. We're working hard to bring that conversion process back to Wyoming, where we are actually converting yellow cake to the hydrogen fluoride. I don't remember the name of the gas, but then the next step in it is enrichment. There is no enrichment done in the United States anymore. We've been buying our enriched fuels from Russia. Senator Barrasso just put a ban on that. We in Wyoming are on the cutting edge of being ready to bring that enrichment to Wyoming. Manufacturing, we're working with a group called BWXT, who is, we're hoping to bring their microprocessors manufacturing to Wyoming. Right now they manufacture all of the nuclear reactors for the Navy, for the ships, and they're ready to move into a commercial market for their microreactors, and we want them building those reactors here in Wyoming. I think we're there. And then the usage or generation of it is the next step. That's Natrium, but we've got so many potential projects for these microreactors right now. We're right on the edge of this thing blowing wide open in Wyoming. It's going to be huge for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Winter, how can the Wyoming legislature help to solve the problem? He's waiting. Of access to many healthcare services, including maternity health care.
As you might figure, I don't know. But healthcare is a big issue. So I guess I'll just have to refer to folks that are like, the good thing about the Wyoming legislature is that we have a lot of good folks in a lot of different fields. They know what they're talking about. So I have to refer to people like that so that I don't come off as being a dope. But your own Fremont County, Sarah Penn, is a tremendous gal for health, human health, and so I refer to her often about the things that go on in Wyoming that she is familiar with, and as I try to do with everybody that has much more knowledge than I. So I guess I would just defer to her or to other folks who are very familiar with healthcare. Thank you.
So what do you think the Wyoming legislature can do to help solve this problem?
Well, I think they just need to be involved and look at alternatives, get with experts like John said, and figure out what the process is. And we all know that healthcare is important to all of us, and we have a lot of people all over the country and in Wyoming that have not adequate health care. So I think it's just a matter of really sitting down with the people that, like John said, that know what's going on and trying to solve that situation. It'll be a never-ending battle. We'll have to continue to fight that. Not fight it, but we'll have to continue to work on it and try to come up with solutions. So it's very important, and I know everybody takes it very seriously, and it's going to have to continue to be that way.
Did you want to add anything, Mr. Winter? Okay, thank you. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. I think John said it pretty close. There's no easy answer for this, and I don't know is probably a really good, honest answer. Anybody that tells you that they have the answer for this is probably going to lie to you about some other stuff too. One thing that I think would help us quite a bit is more competition in the insurance market. For a lot of us, especially self-employed, we have only one place to go, and that's Blue Cross Blue Shield. And the insurance end of it is scary expensive and very poor coverage. The Medicare side of it for the older folks is extremely confusing, and I think we need to have an advocate's office in the Department of Health for helping seniors through this Medicare process. It's I've got involved with it the last couple of years, and the more I learn about it, the less I know. It's an extremely complex issue. Veterans health. I've been talking with a lot of veterans the last few months, and the fight they're having with the VA to try to get health care, to even get an appointment to try to get health care is really scary. We need to really up our advocacy for the veterans in the state. Our WWAMI program to educate doctors is a great program. We're getting some good students out through the program, but other states are coming in and offering big bonuses to those students, paying their loans off like we're promising to do, like we are doing, but then they're offering big hire-on bonuses and stealing those kids away from us. So we need to probably put some more teeth in that WWAMI program and really develop it more. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Skates, this may be up your alley based on something you said earlier. What is your understanding and opinion about the extensive revamp of the mental health system and facilities supported by the state of Wyoming for mental health crisis support?
Well, at this point, I don't think, we can't do enough. I think it's something we can get ahead of the curve on. We've been very lucky in this state not to have schools shut down, locked down, mass shooting in schools, but we do have problems with mental health with children, and we have situations all across the state with kids being injured, bullied, and like I said before, the kid's killed in Casper. A 12-year-old gets stabbed at the mall. So I think it's very important that the state of Wyoming, the legislators get involved with the medical field, the schools, and really try to press the mental health situation. And that may be because I know mental health situations in the state, people have to travel long distances, usually out of the state, to have care, and we need to have care here within our state, and maybe not in every town. Obviously we can't do that, but in regions, even if we have a mental health facility that's operated through the school and the state, maybe that's an answer, but I think we really need to dive real deep into that situation.
Well, thank you for the question. I don't know much about mental health, except that I know that kids especially need a job. They need to work, and they need to understand what it means to accomplish something, and I think that would take care of a lot of our quote-unquote mental health problems. I think it goes back in the beginning to the parents, again to the schools, but I see too many kids wandering around with no direction, and to me, it's so important that they have a job and a reason for being there. Sports and so forth are really great, but not everybody is endowed with that ability. However, we can all accomplish a lot if we're given the guidance we need, and to me that takes care of a lot of the mental problems that people have, is if they have a goal and they have direction. So I'm just not very sympathetic to mental health in some ways. There's problems with mental health for grown-ups and old people and kids, but I think there's already issues or situations that are being taken care of properly, and I don't think we need to get too much more involved in it. We just need to be aware of it and help where we can. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Mr. Skates, a rebuttal.
I would just like to say that the kids, like John said, they don't have a lot of direction, and I think we need to put more emphasis on the parents. I think they need to be more involved in the raising of their children. I think they rely on a lot of other people, schools, activities, rec departments, coaches, to help raise their kids. And I think we need to put a lot more pressure on the parents to give them the proper direction.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper.
Thanks, Maggie. Well, one of the things we're looking at here in Wyoming is a massive, critical bed shortage for mental health. We don't have anywhere to go with these people. Our Title 25 program, our county attorney, deputy county attorney here can tell us a little bit about that. We've got people locked up in jail because we don't have any place to go with them. They don't belong in jail. They belong in a facility getting mental health care. That whole system needs a complete revamp, and that's going to be a huge, huge lift for the state. We need more rural mental health programs. You can go to Casper, you can go to Cheyenne, maybe Gillette, and get some good help. But for Shoshoni or for Burlington or Meeteetse or Medicine Bow, you're kind of out there on your own. So those things are all things that we're going to have to address from the legislative side. They're not easy topics. One of the things that I've been talking to a gentleman out of Grable, who is a suicide hotline operator. He's telling me that 9 out of 10 of his calls are veterans. We're letting these guys down horribly, and they're wanting to talk to another veteran. This kid is not a vet. He's trying hard, but we do have a Veterans for Veterans program that's helping some, but we really need to reach out to our veterans and give them the support that they need. Thank you.
Okay, don't sit down. Here's a really doozy for you. How do we bring the division between the Freedom Caucus and the Wyoming Republican Caucus to productive governance?
We continue to promote civility, among other things. We continue to communicate. We, on Senate File 54, we were pretty productive with that. The bill got vetoed for various reasons, but what we put out there was a good collaborative effort between the Freedom Caucus, the Wyoming Caucus, and those of us not involved with either caucus. We can build that kind of collaborative effort, but we've got to be able to talk to each other, and the rigidity of anybody in either group is not productive. We have to be collaborative. We have to work together, and I think we can do that, but we have to keep those communications open. Thank you.
Do you have any sense of what Mr. Olmsted would say if he were here?
Mr. Olmsted's views, I won't sparge him on them, but he's very rigid. He has openly stated that what the constituents ask for is not important to him after he gets elected, in a open public meeting a couple weeks ago. And I think that's as backwards as it could be. The constituents are asking us to work together to bring this kind of division in our party, to heal it and bring it together. So I think rigidity and radicalism on either side of the table is absolutely intolerable.
Thank you. Mr. Winter, your thoughts on that?
Ma'am, it's funny you'd ask that question because I just dealt with this yesterday. I was asked by a former, well, he's a current representative right now, but he's not running for re-election. And he said to me, I understand that I see where the Freedom Caucus endorsed you. And I said, yes, why wouldn't they? I was one of the founding fathers of that caucus. And so he said, well, you seem to have done a lot of damage in Cheyenne relative to not getting along. But like I told him, we have to get their attention. And so we have not been easy to get along with. We brought up issues that needed to be brought up because the current, I'm speaking mostly of the House right now, because I don't know much about the Senate as far as where they land. But I know that right now on big issues, the vote is always 26 to 36, and the 36 includes 4 Democrats. So we have to get their attention, and we have to make Wyoming the state that everybody thinks that it is, because it isn't. We have so many people in Cheyenne who are not conservative, and they have other ideas about how they like to spend money, put it that way, and that's plain and simple. So I cannot abide with that, and I will continue to move forward with the Freedom Caucus to make Wyoming the best state in the union.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Skates, your thoughts?
This is the first time I filed for an elected position, and when I filed through the state, I filled out the form, and it said Republican, there was a box, Democrat, Independent, and I checked Republican, and there was no subheadings under Republican, no Freedom Caucus, no right, no left, no Wyoming Caucus, no Rhino, none of that. It was just said Republican. And I think there was an article yesterday that stated that some of the Freedom Caucus, Mr. Bear from Gillette, I think he's from, he was saying that they needed to take more seats away from some of the Republicans, that they wanted the Freedom Caucus Republicans to rule the House. What do we have, 5 or 6 Democrats in the House? I think the Republicans pretty much rule the House right now. But there seems to be a division, and I think, like Ed said, we need to work through that. We need to be able to come together. We need to, I get kind of frustrated because it seems like everybody's mad. People don't have Christmas dinner anymore because their family, there's somebody that doesn't agree, so they don't get together. Friends are losing friends, and that's just sad to see. I don't like that. I'm from the old school, I guess, of where we all work together, and if we have to cross over the aisle to get things done and visit and have constructive debate, that's what we need to do. So I'm all for, just like Ed said, I'm all for us working together to make our constituents pleased with what we're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Winter, you have 30 seconds if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you. I just have to say that the Freedom Caucus there is a lot of bickering going on down there. However, sometimes you have to do that to get people to understand what your position is. And right now, the way it's set up, no Freedom Caucus members are in leadership positions as far as committees and so forth. But we hope to change that. And I think with this election, it's going to happen. So just stay tuned, I guess.
Okay, thank you. We have covered our 10 primary questions, main questions, as I mean to say. We have a couple alternate questions, and it appears that we have time to get to them. Sure. Okay. So Michelle Escudero just informed me there have been a lot of questions. We thank the audience for the questions. We don't have time for all the questions and have prioritized questions to solicit new information. How about we'll start with you, Mr. Winter? How can you help the veterans of Fremont County, for example, with recognition? Mr. Winter. example recognition?
Well, thank you. I think it's very simple. We need to honor them at our rodeos and our gatherings. We need to fly the American flag and give credit where credit is due. The veterans are an amazing bunch of folks, and we need to support them where we can. Senator Cooper has talked about this quite a bit, and I have to agree with him. But we do need to support them, but we need to do it publicly and give them credit where credit is due.
Thank you. Mr. Skates.
I would ask the question to you of Fremont County. Is there a Veterans Park in Fremont County anywhere that you know of? Several? Okay, so I guess my point would be that you have a Veterans Park, you have Fremont County veterans on a plaque, which war they served in, you honor them, you have that there, and you add to that when you have, as the years go on. And I think every county should have a Veterans Park. I don't think all counties do, but I think it would be a good way that 50 years from now, someone could see a veteran's name that their grandpa or somebody served. And so I think that would be one way to do it if it's not being done. Do you know if they have plaques or any kind of monuments with names? Several? Okay, very good. So they're doing that. And I think that it's hard to recognize them, but like John said, maybe at some of certain events during the year you try to do something, but it definitely needs to be done, and we got to continue. So it could be in a lot better spot, is what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
So, according to the format, Mr. Winter, you'd have 90 seconds to respond before I let Mr. Cooper. Okay, Mr. Cooper, would you like to address that?
Thanks, Maggie. Actually, I've had the privilege in the last 2 weeks of being involved with two different veteran recognition events. The one I went to just day before yesterday, I believe it was a 102-year-old World War II vet who was shot down over occupied Germany, made his way back to the lines. He flew P-38 fighters during the war. Sharp as a tack, just a brilliant man. He was a real pleasure, and we had a very nice lunch with him. And another gentleman who was a Vietnam vet, naval pilot, flew F-4 Phantoms, shot down over Hanoi, spent 6 years in the Hanoi Hilton. So we had the privilege in a very closed ceremony to honor those two men and sit down with them and talk very directly with them. A week ago Sunday in Thermopolis, Amy Toyne sponsored a Band-Aids for Hearts program for Vietnam vets to welcome them back home way too late. It was attended by 28 Vietnam vets, and it was a wonderful program. Right now I'm I'm having a bill drafted to expand our veterans hunting and fishing privileges in Wyoming. Currently, if a combat vet, I believe the program as it stands, if they were entered the military in Wyoming, they can get their hunting and fishing licenses free. There isn't one of these veterans, when they went over there, that said they were fighting for Wyoming. They all said they were fighting for the United States of America. So as these veterans move to Wyoming and make their home here, I think we need to recognize them. And I think we need to give them a hunting and a fishing license if that's what their desire is. I don't have a problem with that at all. Thank you.
Thank you. There's several audience questions, and we're going to work on getting as many as we can in. I'm going to ask one of the alternate questions that just requires a yes or no response, and it blends right with your hunting thing just now. Mr. Skates, do you support the court ruling that the act of corner crossing, stepping from one piece of public land to another over a corner shared with private land, does not constitute trespassing? Is that clear? And it's yes, no.
Read just the last part, does it?
So corner crossing is
right,
where...
Right. I understand corner crossing,
Yeah.
but...
So do you believe that we should be allowed to engage in corner crossing, or is it trespassing?
We should be able to.
Okay. Mr. Winter, can you corner cross, or is it trespassing?
No, ma'am. It's because of the airspace above the property.
Okay, but so your position is that it is trespassing
Yes.
to engage in corner crossing. Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
It is trespassing.
It is trespassing. Okay, thank you. Next audience question. We'll start with you, Mr. Cooper. How do you plan to help disabled seniors who are on fixed incomes to survive this economy? And we're going to make you stick to your minute and a half.
You just keep coming up with these softballs, Maggie.
It's an audience question.
It's an audience question, and it's a good one. You know, Mr. Representative Winter has talked about spending, but fiscal responsibility doesn't necessarily mean no spending. It means responsible spending. So at some point here, we're going to have to step up and do just a little bit more for our seniors. You know, the Medicaid expansion thing keeps coming up. I am not in favor of Medicaid expansion. I think there's too much potential for fraud. So within our own system, we're going to have to come up with an alternative. And I have, to quote Mr. Winter, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm willing to continue working on it.
Any ideas, Mr. Winter?
That is a toughie, but we need to address it. And I'm of the opinion that we spend so much money on welfare, and we need to redirect that to situations like you just mentioned for the disabled veterans. I think we can do that, but it's going to have to involve the health agency in Cheyenne and get the support of the governor. So that's my thoughts.
How do you plan to help disabled seniors who are on fixed incomes to survive this economy? Mr. Skates.
I would repeat kind of what Mr. Cooper said. I think it's a tough question, but it's something we have to work on, and it's going to take some money. It's going to take responsible spending, like Ed said. Is there an easy answer? No, but that's what you elect officials for, is to try to solve some of those problems. And so the elected officials need to bond together with their constituents and figure out a good solution.
Just stay standing. And this, I think I already know what you're going to say based on something earlier. How do you feel about an increase of sales tax to help pay for property tax? This would let tourists help solve the property tax issue.
Correct. So I'm all for that. It'd have to really be looked into, but I think that's where we can really make a difference, is through sales tax. And if we can help with property tax to relieve a lot of us for our residential property tax, that'd be wonderful. And sales tax is a possible solution. Yes.
Mr. Winter, your thoughts on that?
I disagree. this bill was brought up by a representative out of Casper. He wanted to replace property tax with sales tax, and I do not think that's the way to go. I don't think it can, we don't need to be fooling with the sales tax in this state. So that's my thoughts.
Mr. Cooper, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it has potential. I don't agree with it as it came out. I think it's something that we need to continue to look at as an alternative. But more importantly, what we have to do is look at this entire property tax reform question, and we can't even have a solid conversation on it because of the way the Constitution is written right now. So without our constitutional amendment being passed in this coming election, our hands are so tied that it's all just rhetoric at this point, in my opinion. This is there's so many points that I do agree with what the Freedom Caucus is trying to do. This is one that I'll stand with them on. I don't think this is anywhere near ready to move forward.
Mr. Winter, this audience question involves how much did the state put into savings? There's a sort of the premise. Could that fund the residential tax rebate by backfilling that loss? And because you were in the legislature, maybe that question makes more sense to you.
Okay. The state of Wyoming is continually trying to save money, and I applaud them for that. However, you'll also remember that there are many trust funds being set up, and that's another form of savings accounts. And some of these trust funds are probably adequate. Some of them do some good, like the Wildlife Trust Fund. I think they're doing some good things with that. But I believe we have to reassess where we're at on our budget. I mean, this last year, we had the largest budget in the history of Wyoming, and I voted against it. I could not support it. But there are ways to handle it. We do have enough money for a lot of different things, but I don't believe that we need to be, there needs to be some adjustments on our feelings towards savings. There are some things that need to be paid for in place of saving the money. We have a lot of opportunities to save money, but we need to take care of the people of this state of Wyoming first. Thank you.
Mr. Skates, if you could take a stab at this. Basically, the question seems to say, could that fund the residential tax rebate by backfilling that loss, referring to money that the state has put into savings?
So I think what they're asking is the rebate, property tax rebate, that we could use some kind of fund, like rainy day fund, that kind of thing, to pay that back. Is that kind of?
I think so.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I think we have a rainy day fund, which I applaud the state for doing. I think it's a great thing that we have, and other states are envious of us. But we, as the legislatures and the governor, we have to choose things that if we need some funding, can we use it? And I think we can, and I think we have to continue to save, but at the same time, when we are trying to help seniors or veterans, we may have to spend some of that money and do it responsibly.
Mr. Cooper.
Remember, is where these funds that we put away the last couple of years came from. A lot of it was ARPA funds. A lot of it came from COVID money. And we were able to use that COVID money to cover some of the state's expenses that normally would have came through our severance taxes and ad valorem tax and such. Same way with the ARPA funds. So that gave us extra money to put away in savings, and that was a good program. I applaud the state for putting as much as they did. Now, think about this year. The price of coal is way down. Coal production is down 25, 30%. These big funds that we had last year are not going to be there this coming year. We're going to have our backs up against the wall again. So we're going to be really glad we have these rainy day funds and the extra income from these savings that we were able to put away. We're getting really good returns on those billions of dollars, and those billions of dollars of returns, or the return on those billions of dollars, is saving every one of us on our sales tax, on our property tax, and preventing us from having a state income tax. So we got to make sure we're real careful about balancing that, and a tax refund at this point, seeing what's coming, looking to the future, is probably a huge tax refund is probably not something that we really that I would consider responsible spending.
Okay, thank you. My clock says it's 7:35. We want to leave a 10-minute intermission at least before the 8 o'clock session starts. We also want to give each of you time for a closing statement. We've made it through the audience questions that were handed to me. Was there another audience question? Tara, do you know? Okay, then I'm going to ask one more from the alternate questions. And I know that you have already spoken to this, Mr. Cooper, a little bit, but so perhaps we'll start with Mr. Winter. Since 2014, the Wyoming legislature has rejected Medicare expansion, which could provide health care for approximately 19,000 Wyoming citizens who earn up to 138% of the federal poverty level. For a family of four, that's about $41,000 annually. Do you favor supporting Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
I do not favor that expanding Medicaid. My fear is that there'll be too many people trying to get into the program, and it will take away from the folks that really need it. So, no, I am not in favor of that.
Thank you. Mr. Skates.
Yeah, I am in favor of expansion. I think we need to provide the help that's needed, so I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cooper.
I think there are areas in the Medicare program or Medicaid program that we could expand in, but overall, I think the potential for fraud is extreme yet. I think the idea that we would have 19,000 people is entirely too conservative. I think that the number is going to be double or triple of that, because people who are sourcing other sources of insurance right now will switch over to Medicaid, and this 19,000 people can easily turn into 60, 70, 80,000. I don't know how many. Nobody really has that answer.
Okay, thank you. A final question came in from the audience, and it was undoubtedly in direct response to comments made earlier. And the question is, what does the air above property have to do with corner crossing? If an airplane flies over, is that trespassing? Yes, Mr. Cooper, you can start.
We did quite a bit of work in judicial on airspace and drones, and it was not directed specifically at corner crossings. In fact, it was specifically directed away from the corner crossing question. But what it amounts to is the airspace above 500 feet above ground level is FAA controlled. We don't control it. So if the airplane is 500 feet or higher, it's not trespassing. If they're 500 feet or lower without permission, then that is trespassing, in my opinion.
The question was, what about drones? Because people fly drones all over. And how does that, just because we have a second, how does that relate to the whole corner crossing question?
The legislation we addressed was specifically for drones, because they are very invasive. people can fly right over your house or over your cattle or wherever it may be, buzz the cows and think that's pretty fun. That's trespassing. And as far as how the drones are not in the corner crossing question.
So just to clarify, it is illegal. My understanding of what you just said is to have drones fly in that airspace that's not the FAA, that's right above the ground. It is trespassing?
From surface level to 500 feet is controlled by the landowner. Ember, do you remember this bill? Can you help me? I don't think it passed, did it? The drone trespassing bill. I think it was
Okay, so you just
defeated.
discussed it. I thought you just said that it was law. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
but above 500 feet, the FFA controls that airspace. We don't.
Okay. Mr. Winter, I believe it was you who talked about the air, perhaps, when we were talking about the corner crossing. This question from the audience was, what does the air above property have to do with property rights in the corner crossing case?
Well, ma'am, I think that it's pretty obvious in many situations. If people own a piece of property and they put a 10-story building on it, they own that airspace. If they don't, it's whatever I guess is appropriate for crossing that particular corner. Whether it's 2 foot or 500 feet, it's still, there is a ownership there, the way I understand it. And I agree with Senator Cooper on many of these issues relative to the corner crossing. I don't believe the Supreme Court did the right thing on that.
Thank you. Mr. Skates.
I look at the corner crossing a little bit different than airspace, so I think it's not trespassing corner crossing. I know the state parks, we had people flying drones over Hot Springs State Park, over the swimming pools, that kind of thing. So it was more of a privacy issue. So we outlawed drones unless they were doing something educational or promotional. We had some drones fly over the park to do ads, those kind of things. We had the University of Wyoming flying drones over the hot springs so they could determine where the hot spots were. That was okay as long as the superintendent agreed. So I think the drone thing is more of a privacy thing. And like Ed said, it's definitely a harassment thing. If they're harassing Ed's cows or if they're harassing a herd of antelope, then that's definitely a wildlife or a livestock harassment thing, but I don't think it's corner crossing related.
Okay, thank you. That's okay. So we're going to move on to closing statements. You each have 60 seconds to summarize whatever perhaps we didn't address tonight that you feel you would have liked to have spoken to. We can perhaps start with Mr. Winter.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor to be here this evening, and I hope that I was able to answer the questions that folks had to their approval. If they weren't, I'm sorry, but we'll work on that. I wanted to refer back to elections a little bit. Elections are what make the United States of America what it is, and we have to keep them honest and viable. And I think our county clerks, with the help of the state, are doing their very best to make sure that these elections are fair and equitable. And so with that, I guess we just need to, as I mentioned before, if you have questions on anything, don't hesitate to call me. I have some cards over there with our phone number on it, or you probably know all about computers, and I don't, but you can get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to try to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Mr. Skates.
Okay, I think our system is set up for choices. And it's too bad there's not 5 or 6 of us up here. So that gives you people more choices, more options. And that's the way our system has been for 248 years, and I think that's the way it should continue. And I applaud John and Ed for already serving in our legislature. That's a great thing, and I'm tackling this for the first time because I think I kind of like the atmosphere of the legislature, getting with people, solving problems. We have to rise above content, and we have to work together. At our last forum that we were at in Thermopolis, I told the people I have a lot of energy, and I still do, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to use the word that our new University of Wyoming basketball coach, Sundance Wicks, who's from Gillette, and he's our new head coach at the university, and he calls it juice. Bring your juice. So I'm going to bring my juice if I'm elected, and I'll do my best. Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Maggie. I think as we bring legislation forward, we got to make sure that what we're bringing is common sense, solution-based, conservative legislation. Common sense and solution-based. We all know what the problems are, but people tend to try to outlaw the problem without bringing a solution to the problem, and that's counterproductive. It doesn't do anything. So I will continue to try to be collaborative. I believe a lot of the things that the Freedom Caucus is doing is right. I don't agree with the way they go about it. It's that simple. But I will continue to try to promote civility between the two groups. The other thing I want to talk about just a little bit is the time commitment involved in this. In 2023, I was away from home 140 nights with the legislature. Put that on 5 nights a week, that's 7 months away from home. Make sure that your candidate choice has the ability to, and the flexibility in their life to put the time into this job that it really, really requires. I've had to actually step away from my business, from the day-to-day operations of it. I could either be very successful in my business or I could be very successful in the Senate. I chose to try to be very successful in the Senate, and I think I've been very effective, and I've brought forth really good common sense legislation. The bills that I've sponsored personally are, I believe I'm about 8 of them right now that have passed that were my personal bills, and I'm pretty proud of all of them. One of the things that we fought for real hard in Shoshoni was, and it was common sense, that the savings and loans should be allowed to do the banking for the city. We didn't get that done, but we fought hard for it. And those kind of things, those kind of common sense, solution-based legislations are the things that we really need to be focusing on, the nuts and bolts of running this state. These hot button topics, I call them social media topics, they're very important, but that doesn't keep the state running. Probably 95%, and I think John would agree with this, 95% of what we do is just the nuts and bolts of running the state. And some of that's pretty boring work, but it has to be done.
All right, well, we thank you for that. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Fremont County Republican Party, the Republican Women of Fremont County, PAC, and the Fremont County Democratic Party, I want to thank these candidates for participating tonight and in this election. It's humbling to hear how much you all are invested in our community. And earlier I asked everybody to hold their applause and commentary, but it would be lovely now if you could give these candidates a round of applause. We're going to have a 10-minute intermission, and we hope you will stay with us for the Fremont County Commission Forum, which will commence directly after the intermission. Please consider completing an electronic survey, which can be accessed through the QR code. Looks like this at the League's information table. We're very interested in your feedback about this forum. And as shared earlier, we invite you to join us for light refreshments and an opportunity to meet and connect with these candidates. Thank you.